October 14th, 1971, 6:47 p.m., Harlan County, Kentucky. The Cumberland Mountains press down on the valley like a slow-held breath, ridgeline after ridgeline folding into purple dusk. The air smells of wet coal dust and wood smoke and something else, a sweetness from the last of the apple orchards clinging to the lower slopes of Black Mountain. En route 119, the headlights of a Texaco tanker truck sweep across the guardrail as it rumbles north toward Cumberland. A dog somewhere in the holler is barking at nothing, or at everything. Inside the narrow frame house at 412 Sycamore Bend Road, loyal, Kentucky, Patsy Jean Combs is standing at the kitchen sink. The window above the faucet faces the backfield, and she can see the last pale seam of daylight sinking behind the tree line. She has dish soap bubbles on her forearm and a song in her head. She'd heard it on WKIC that afternoon, Bridge Over Troubled Water, and it had been playing on a loop inside her since. She hums it while she rinses a blue enamel coffee mug, sets it on the drying rack, and reaches for the next one. She is 19 years old, 5'4". Dark chestnut hair cut in a shoulder-length shag she did herself last Saturday with the kitchen shears. Brown eyes with a slight amber ring that her mother always called tiger eyes. A small scar at the left corner of her mouth where, at age 7, she tried to jump a creek and landed face first on a limestone shelf. She wears tonight a cream-colored cable knit cardigan her grandmother knitted, Wrangler jeans, and a pair of brown suede hush puppies she is immensely proud of. They cost her $8 from the Sears catalog, and she has worn them 3 times in a week. Her shift at the Harlan County School District cafeteria had ended at 2:30. She'd stopped at the Piggly Wiggly on Highway 421 for a half-gallon of milk, a box of Tide, and a can of cream of mushroom soup. She'd chatted for 11 minutes with Dorothy Estes, the checkout clerk, and her neighbor's daughter, about whether the coal miners' strike would go on through Christmas. She'd driven home in her 1968 Ford Maverick, avocado green, a small rust patch above the rear passenger wheel well, and she'd fed her tabby cat, Biscuit, before starting supper. Her parents, Roy and Loretta Combs, live 40 minutes away in Evarts. Her older brother, Dennis Ray Combs, is in Pikeville working a construction job. The house she rents belongs to Lloyd and Norma Sizemore, and it sits at the end of a gravel lane off Sycamore Bend Road. The nearest neighbor is 600 feet away. At 6:51 p.m., Patsy dries her hands on a dish towel, printed with roosters, and picks up her purse from the kitchen chair. She has told Dorothy Estes she might come back to the Piggly Wiggly later. She forgot cornstarch, and she wanted to make a gravy tomorrow. She sets Biscuit's water bowl on the floor, pushes her feet into her hush puppies, and opens the side door. The porch light comes on, throwing a pale yellow circle onto the gravel. She steps into it. The door swings shut behind her, and Patsy Jean Combs is never seen alive again. Before we dive into this haunting story, let us know where you're watching from. And if you love cases solved after decades, don't forget to hit subscribe to stay updated on more stories. Because this one, set in the mountains of eastern Kentucky, took 51 years, a DNA database, and one woman's refusal to let go before it finally found its answer. To understand what happened to Patsy Combs, you first have to understand Harlan County. Tucked into the southeastern corner of Kentucky, wedged against the Virginia border, Harlan County in 1971 was a place shaped entirely by coal. The mountains here were not merely scenic, they were economic. Every family had a son, father, or grandfather who had gone underground. The county seat, Harlan, had a movie theater, a Sears store, a hardware shop, and a courthouse that had seen more than its share of violent labor disputes. The smaller communities, Loyal, Benham, Cumberland, Evarts, were company town echoes, in places where the rhythm of life moved to shift whistles and mine bells. It was also a place of fierce community loyalty and fierce suspicion of outsiders. People knew each other's business. They knew which families drank, which marriages were strained, which young men had come back from Vietnam with something broken inside them. This insularity would later both help and hinder the investigation into Patsy's disappearance. Patricia Jean Combs was born on March 8, 1952, at Harlan A.R.H. Hospital to Roy Edsel Combs, age 26, and Loretta Mae Combs, née Burchett, age 24. Roy worked as a section foreman at the Benham Coal Corporation, No. 4 mine. Loretta was a homemaker who also quilted and sold her work through a church bazaar. The family lived in a 3-bedroom house on Maple Street in Evarts. Patsy was the second of 3 children. Her older brother, Dennis Ray Combs, born in 1949, was by 1971 working construction in Pikeville. Her younger sister, Karen Sue Combs, born in 1956, was 15 years old in 1971 and still living at home with Roy and Loretta. Patsy was, by all accounts, a girl who brought warmth into rooms. Her high school yearbook at Evarts High School, class of 1970, lists her as Secretary of Future Homemakers of America, a member of the choir, and a participant in the school drama club, where she played Adelaide in the senior production of Guys and Dolls. Her drama teacher, the late Mrs. Alma Faulkner, she wrote in her college recommendation, "Patsy Combs has a quality that cannot be taught. She makes people feel seen." She stood 5 feet, 4 inches tall, and weighed approximately 118 pounds at the time of her disappearance. Her chestnut hair was thick and worn in a shoulder-length shag style. Her eyes were dark brown with amber flecks, and she had a distinctive scar at the left corner of her mouth from a childhood fall. She wore a size 7 shoe. After graduation in May 1970, Patsy worked briefly at Harlan Appalachian Regional Hospital as a dietary aide, then took a position with the Harlan County School District as a cafeteria worker, assigned to Martin Luther King Elementary School on Catron Street. Her co-workers described her as dependable, funny in a quiet way, and generous. She was known to slip extra rolls onto trays of kids who came in visibly hungry. She had been dating a young man named Garfield Wayne Tipton, Gary everyone called him, a 23-year-old electrician's apprentice who worked for Cumberland Electric Cooperative. They had been together for approximately 8 months. Gary drove a 1969 black Chevrolet pickup, and he was well regarded by Patsy's parents. On October 14th, 1971, Patsy worked her regular shift at Martin Luther King Elementary, which ran 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. She clocked out at 2:32 p.m. She drove to the Piggly Wiggly on Highway 421, where she purchased milk, detergent, and cream of mushroom soup, paying $2.14 in cash. Checkout clerk Dorothy Lynn Estes, age 22, recalled the visit in detail. They spoke for approximately 11 minutes. Patsy drove home to 412 Sycamore Bend Road, as she is believed to have arrived around 4 p.m. She fed her cat, cooked a simple supper of soup and crackers, washed the dishes, and according to the evidence, prepared to make a second trip to the Piggly Wiggly for cornstarch, a trip she mentioned to Dorothy Estes during their earlier conversation. At approximately 6:51 p.m., based on a neighbor's recollection of seeing her porch light activate, Patsy left the house. She never returned. At 8:44 p.m. on October 14th, 1971, Gary Wayne Tipton arrived at 412 Sycamore Bend Road, as he had told Patsy he would after his evening class at Southeast Community College. He found the porch light on, the front door unlocked, Biscuit the cat crying at the door, and Patsy's avocado green 1968 Ford Maverick still parked in the gravel beside the house. Gary knocked. He called out. He opened the door and stepped inside. The kitchen light was on. A dish towel was folded over the oven handle. The cream of mushroom soup can sat on the counter, open and unused. She had apparently decided to leave before actually cooking. Her purse was gone. The rooster dish towel was damp. A single dirty soup spoon was in the drying rack. Gary waited 45 minutes, periodically going outside and calling her name toward the tree line. At 9:31 p.m., he drove to the Piggly Wiggly on Highway 421. Dorothy Estes was still on shift. She confirmed that Patsy had not come back that evening. Gary called Roy Combs in Evarts at 9:48 p.m. Roy and Loretta drove to Loyal immediately, arriving at 10:35 p.m. At 10:52 p.m., Roy Combs called the Harlan County Sheriff's Office to report his daughter missing. Deputies Earl Howard Blanton, age 31, and Curtis Lee Mullins, age 28, arrived at 412 Sycamore Bend Road at 11:19 p.m. They assessed the scene. Deputy Blanton noted that the side door, not the front, showed signs of recent use. A fresh scuff on the lower door frame, consistent with the heel of a shoe, and a small clump of gravel displaced on the porch step. Patsy, it appeared, had gone out the side door rather than the front. The side door faced a gravel lane running approximately 150 feet to Sycamore Bend Road itself. There was no streetlight at the lane's end. The nearest house, belonging to Glenn and Cora Hatfield, was roughly 600 feet to the north along Sycamore Bend Road. Glenn Hatfield, age 54, a retired mine worker, told deputies that around 7 p.m. he had heard a car idling on Sycamore Bend Road near the Combs Lane entrance. One he had noticed because it was unusual. Cars didn't idle there. The engine had run for what he estimated as 3 to 5 minutes, then driven away heading south toward Route 119. He had not gone to look. He had not thought much of it at the time. His wife, Cora Hatfield, age 51, added that she had seen headlights sweep across their living room curtains around that same time, consistent with a vehicle turning or maneuvering in the lane. Deputies Blanton and Mullins taped off the gravel lane and the immediate surroundings of the side door. They found no blood. They found no signs of a physical struggle. What they found were 3 sets of tire tracks in the soft mud at the lane's edge. Patsy's Maverick, confirmed by wheelbase. A second set with a distinctly wider track base, suggesting a larger vehicle. And a partial third set, and badly disturbed. At 5:30 a.m. on October 15th, 1971, as cold grey light seeped over Black Mountain, Roy Combs stood in his daughter's yard. He looked at her car. He looked at the forest line. He said nothing for a long time. Loretta Combs did not leave the house for 4 days. The Harlan County Sheriff's Office, October to December 1971. Sheriff Elmo Ray Hopper, age 52, had served Harlan County for 11 years. A broad-shouldered man with a measured temperament and a methodical mind, Hopper had handled the county's share of violence, mining accidents, domestic homicides, bar fights gone fatal. But a disappearance of this kind was different. There was no body. There was no confirmed crime. There was a missing 19-year-old woman and a cat that wouldn't eat. He assigned the case to Detective Sergeant Orville James Prater, age 44, a Harlan native and 17-year department veteran. Prater drove a 1969 tan Ford Galaxy patrol car and kept a paper logbook that he updated every morning at 7 a.m. He had a reputation for patience that some mistook for slowness. He wasn't slow, he was thorough. The official search began October 15th, 1971 at 7 a.m. By noon, 187 searchers had assembled in the Sycamore Bend Road area. Volunteers from Loyal, Harlan, Evarts, and Cumberland, plus members of the Kentucky State Police Post in Harlan, a unit from the U.S. Forest Service, 4 K-9 teams from the State Police, and a Civil Air Patrol spotter aircraft. Over the next 6 days, searchers covered an estimated 34 square miles of mountainous terrain, logging more than 2,200 person-hours. The search encompassed creek bottoms, mine entrances, forest roads, and ridge trails along the Black Mountain approach. The K9 teams picked up a scent from Patsy's hush puppies, a pair left behind in the bedroom closet, and tracked it down the gravel lane to Sycamore Bend Road, where it ended abruptly at the road's edge. This was consistent with the theory that she had been taken into a vehicle. Evidence collected at the scene was catalogued by Kentucky State Police evidence technician Beverly Ann Skaggs, age 29. Items of note included E4703. Tire cast impression, south lane edge, soft clay substrate, cast in plaster of Paris, October 15th, 11:04 a.m. Technician Skaggs noted the tread pattern as consistent with a General Tire Jet Air 3, a tire commonly fitted to half-ton trucks and full-size passenger cars of the era. E4704. Second tire cast impression, partially overlaid, same location. ICA4705. A single brown suede Hush Puppies women's shoe, size 7, found October 17th in the drainage ditch on the east side of Sycamore Bend Road, approximately 80 feet north of the lane entrance. It was Patsy's right shoe. The lace was broken. The heel showed a scrape consistent with pavement drag. E4706. A torn piece of cream-colored knitted fabric, approximately 2.5 by 4 inches, found clinging to a blackberry briar adjacent to the ditch where E4705 was located, consistent in color and fiber with the cable knit cardigan Patsy was wearing. These two items, E4705 and E4706, transformed the case. Patsy had not left of her own will. She had been taken, and she had struggled. Detective Prater conducted interviews with 41 individuals in the first 3 weeks of the investigation. These 3 men emerged as persons of interest. The first was Dennis Allen Spicer, age 28, of Loyal, an unemployed mine laborer with 2 prior convictions for assault and a reputation for aggressive behavior toward women. Spicer drove a 1968 Dodge D 100 half-ton pickup, and its tread pattern was considered potentially consistent with E4703. Spicer provided an alibi for the evening of October 14th. He claimed to have been at the Ritz Tavern in Harlan from 6 p.m. until closing. 3 witnesses confirmed his presence, though 2 of them were friends of his. His alibi was considered unverified, but not disproven. A polygraph examination administered by Kentucky State Police Examiner Harold Beckett on November 3, 1971, returned inconclusive results. The second person of interest was Clarence Ducky Noe, age 34, of Cumberland, on a part-time truck driver with a prior conviction for aggravated assault and a known history of conflict with a neighboring family that included the Combs. Noah claimed he was in Virginia on the 14th, delivering a load of flooring material to a site in Big Stone Gap. Freight delivery records partially supported this. His manifests showed a signature at the Big Stone Gap site at 3:30 p.m., but allowed him sufficient time to return to Harlan County by evening. His 1970 Ford F-100 White had General Tire tread on the rear axle. He was interviewed twice. He declined a polygraph. The third person of interest, and the one Detective Prater found most troubling, was Merritt Allen Calloway, age 27, of Lynch, Kentucky. Calloway worked as a maintenance worker at the Harlan County School District. He had worked for a period of 6 weeks in August and September 1971 at Martin Luther King Elementary School, the same school where Patsy worked. Former co-workers said Calloway had been strange around Patsy, staring at her in the cafeteria, asking other workers if she was spoken for. Calloway drove a 1967 Buick Electra, dark green, and lived alone in a single wide trailer on Looney Creek Road in Lynch. He had no prior criminal record. He told Detective Prater he had been home alone on the evening of October 14th, watching television. No witnesses could confirm or deny this. His polygraph, administered November 17th, 1971, was deemed deceptive by examiner Beckett on the questions, "Do you know where Patsy Combs is?" and "Did you have any contact with Patsy Combs on October 14th? It's 1971. Detective Prater focused increasingly on Calloway through November and December. He executed a search warrant on Calloway's trailer on November the 22nd, 1971. The search was conducted by state police evidence technicians and took 11 hours. Items collected included a pair of brown work gloves with possible fiber trace on the left palm, sent to the KSP Forensic Lab in Frankfurt, floor mats from the Buick Electra, which showed a reddish-brown stain, later determined by the lab to be motor oil and iron oxide soil, consistent with the Harlan County clay substrate, and a collection of newspaper clippings from the Harlan Daily Enterprise about the disappearance. The gloves, evidence code E4819, were the focus of considerable attention. Lab results from the KSP Forensic Laboratory, Frankfurt, delivered December 29, 1971, identified the fiber trace on the left glove palm as wool, consistent with a natural fiber garment. The cable knit cardigan Patsy had been wearing, a piece of which had been found at the scene, was wool. But the science of trace evidence in 1971 could not match fiber to a specific garment. The results were suggestive, not conclusive. On January 8, 1972, Harlan County Coroner Dr. Louis Ray Skaggs signed a formal certificate of presumed disappearance. No body had been found. On February 14, 1972, without sufficient evidence to pursue prosecution, Sheriff Hopper formally suspended active investigation of the Combs disappearance. The case file, 11 volumes of reports, photographs, interview transcripts, and evidence logs, was placed in storage at the Harlan County Courthouse Annex. The tire casts, the shoe, the fabric fragment, and the work gloves were retained as evidence. Merritt Allen Calloway remained the primary person of interest, but no charges were ever filed. Detective Orville Prater went home that February evening, sat at his kitchen table, and wrote in his logbook, "Patsy Jean Combs, I am sorry. This is not finished." The years passed the way they do in small mountain counties. Not quickly, but thoroughly. Coal production in Harlan County declined through the 1980s. Mines closed. People left. The Piggly Wiggly on Highway 421 became a Dollar General. The Ritz Tavern burned in 1984. Martin Luther King Elementary was consolidated with 2 other schools in 1991. Roy Combs retired from the mines in 1978, with black lung beginning to shadow his x-rays. He died in 1993 at age 67. Loretta lived on in the Evarts house with her younger daughter, Karen Sue, who had married a man named Travis Mullins and worked as a licensed practical nurse at ARH Hospital. Loretta kept Patsy's senior portrait on the mantelpiece beside a blue ceramic rooster, the same design as the kitchen dish towels in the Sycamore Bend house. She spoke about Patsy regularly. She never stopped expecting a call. Dennis Ray Combs, Patsy's older brother, left Pikeville for Cincinnati in 1975. He returned to Harlan County in 1994 after his mother's health began to decline, and he remained. He drove by 412 Sycamore Bend Road once a year on his sister's birthday, March 8th. The house had been sold and renovated twice. He never stopped. In 1984, a new sheriff, Darrell Boyd, reviewed the Combs file as part of a periodic cold case audit. He interviewed Merritt Allen Calloway, now 40 and still living in Lynch. Calloway said nothing new. The Buick Electra had been sold years before. Boyd could not locate it. In 1997, Detective Orville Prater, by then retired, contacted KSP about advances in DNA analysis He was told that the evidence collected, the fiber, the fabric, the gloves, did not contain biological material sufficient for the DNA techniques then available. He wrote one more notation in his personal copy of the logbook. Technology is not there yet. Someday. Orville James Prater died of a heart attack on March 4, 2003, at age 76. He was buried at Rest Haven Cemetery in Harlan. Merritt Allen Calloway continued living in Lynch, Kentucky. He retired from a series of maintenance jobs in 2006 and lived quietly. He was by then 62 years old. He never married. He never left the county. Loretta Combs died on November 9, 2011, at age 83. She had never received an answer. The 11-volume Combs case file sat in the Harlan County Courthouse Annex through 3 courthouse renovations. At one point in 2008, a clerk reported it misplaced. It was found 3 days later behind a row of property deed files from the 1940s. The evidence bags containing E4705, the shoe, E4706, the fabric fragment, and E4819, the work gloves, had been stored correctly in the KSP Harlan Post's evidence room, climate-controlled since 1987. In March 2019, the Kentucky State Police established a formal cold case unit within its Criminal Investigation Division, headquartered in Frankfort. The unit was staffed with 3 investigators and given a mandate to prioritize cases with surviving family members and viable biological evidence. Unit commander was KSP Captain Anita Ray Shortridge, age 48, a 24-year veteran who had previously worked organized crime and was, in the words of her supervisor, the most patient person in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And that is not a compliment anyone gives her twice. Assigned to the Combs case in June 2019 was KSP Special Agent Melissa Dawn Fugate, age 39, a Pike County native with a master's degree in forensic science from the University of Louisville and 12 years of investigative experience. Fugate had 2 cold case resolutions to her name, a 1983 sexual assault and a 1991 homicide, both solved through modern DNA techniques. Fugate requested the complete Combs file from the courthouse annex. It arrived in 12 archive boxes on July 11, 2019. She read every page. The document that changed everything was not a forensic report. It was a handwritten supplemental note by evidence technician Beverly Ann Skaggs, dated October the 22nd, 1971. A week after the initial evidence collection, Skaggs had noted, almost as an afterthought, that when packaging E4706, the fabric fragment, she had placed it in a standard paper evidence bag. But she had also observed at the time a small dark smear on the inner surface of the fabric fragment. Possibly sebaceous, possibly blood, origin uncertain. She had noted the smear and sealed the bag. No one had ever followed up on the smear. In 1971, the smear was too small and insufficiently characterized to test. In 2019, it was potentially a gold mine. Fugate submitted E4706 to the KSP Central Forensic Laboratory in Frankfurt on August 3, 2019, requesting touch DNA and bloodstain analysis. The lab's DNA section, under Director Dr. Paul Cameron Wyatt, employed a process called low copy number, LCN, DNA analysis, capable of generating a profile from as few as 6 cells. Results returned on November 14, 2019. The smear was, as Skaggs had suggested, a combination. A small blood component, consistent with a minor abrasion wound, likely from the victim's hand, and a sebaceous secretion, skin contact DNA from a second individual. The victim's profile was established from the blood. The second profile, from the skin cells, was a partial male profile. 11 alleles at 8 STR loci. Not sufficient for a direct CODIS match, but sufficient for forensic genetic genealogy. Fugate submitted the partial profile to a private forensic genealogy laboratory, Allegheny Genetic Forensics LLC, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on December 1st, 2019. The genealogical analysis, led by analyst Carolyn Ruth Ferris, took 14 months. Using the partial profile in combination with matches found on GEDmatch and family tree DNA, Ferris built a family tree that narrowed the unknown male's likely descent to one of 3 surnames common to southeastern Kentucky: Calloway, Brazier, or Couch. When I saw Calloway, Fugate would later recall, my hands went cold. Merritt Allen Calloway was now 76 years old and still living in Lynch, Kentucky. Fugate placed him under discreet surveillance beginning February 2021. On March 9th, 2021, the day after what would have been Patsy's 69th birthday, Calloway went to the Lynch Dollar General. He purchased a bottle of Gatorade and a bag of Lay's potato chips. He threw the empty Gatorade bottle in the trash can outside. Fugate's team retrieved the bottle. DNA from the lip of the bottle was extracted and submitted to the KSP lab under evidence code E-2021-0309A. The match was returned on April 22, 2021. The partial profile from E-4706 matched the reference profile from E-2021-0309A. The probability of a random match from an unrelated individual, 1 in 847 billion. Merritt Allen Calloway had touched Patsy Jean Combs on the night she disappeared. Fugate now needed to establish what had happened to Patsy, specifically where her remains might be. She went back to the 1971 file. In Volume 7, a single interview note caught her attention. A statement from a retired mine worker named Harlan Duff Compton, age 61 at the time, who said he'd seen a dark-colored big car on the unpaved logging road off Cranks Creek Road near the mouth of the abandoned No. 9 drift mine at approximately 11 p.m. on October 14, 1971. Compton had not been re-interviewed. His statement had been marked low priority in red pen, apparently because the initial focus had shifted to the tavern witnesses for Spicer's alibi. Fugate contacted the Kentucky Office of Mine Safety and obtained historical maps of the No. 9 drift mine, which had been sealed in 1968 after a roof collapse. In August 2021, with a warrant and a specialist team from the KSP Search and Recovery Unit, Fugate supervised the excavation of the mine's sealed entrance and the adjacent collapsed shaft area on the south side of Cranks Creek Road. On August 31st, 2021, at 2:17 p.m., search and recovery specialist Kyle Dean Norris located human skeletal remains in the collapsed eastern shaft chamber, approximately 40 feet from the sealed entrance. The remains were those of a small adult female. Among the remains were artifacts: a brown suede women's shoe, size 7, left foot, Hush Puppies brand, and a fragment of cream-colored wool cable knit fabric. Patsy Jean Combs had been found. 2022. Merritt Allen Calloway, 78 years old, white-haired, living on Social Security in the same Lynch trailer park he'd occupied for 50 years, was arrested at 6:15 a.m. on January 12, 2022, by Special Agent Melissa Fugate and a 6-officer KSP arrest team. He came to the door in a flannel robe and slippers. He looked at Fugate for a long moment. "I knew you'd come," he said. "I just didn't think it'd be you." He was transported to the Harlan County Jail and booked on 1 count of murder in the first degree. In subsequent interviews, it conducted over 4 sessions with Fugate and Harlan County Commonwealth's attorney Dale Eugene Maynard, 51. Calloway gave a partial account. He had become obsessed with Patsy Combs during his weeks at Martin Luther King Elementary. When she rejected his attempts at conversation, he claimed she had been rude to him. The obsession curdled. On October 14, 1971, knowing her address from school district employment records he had accessed without authorization, he had driven to Sycamore Bend Road in his Buick Electra. He waited at the lane entrance. When she came out and began walking toward the road, toward the direction of the Piggly Wiggly, less than a mile south, he pulled up beside her. What happened in the next minutes, Calloway described in flat clinical terms that Fugate found chilling. He forced her into the car. She fought him, and she scratched his arm, the source of the skin cell DNA on the fabric fragment. He drove to the abandoned No. 9 drift mine, a location he knew from a prior job with a land clearing company that had worked the Cranks Creek area. Patsy Jean Combs was strangled. She was 22 days from her 20th birthday. Calloway dragged her into the collapsed shaft. He never went back. Trial proceedings began in Harlan Circuit Court on October 3, 2022. Prosecuting was Commonwealth's Attorney Dale Maynard, assisted by Deputy Commonwealth's Attorney Shonda Ray Hensley, 43. Defense was provided by court-appointed attorney Gerald Keith Hoskins, 58, of Harlan. The key evidence presented included the LCND-NA match, probability 1 in 847 billion, the forensic genealogy analysis, the Gatorade bottle reference sample, and the skeletal remains and associated artifacts, and a testimony by forensic odontologist Dr. Renata Park of the University of Kentucky, who confirmed the remains were consistent with a female of Patsy's age and stature. Calloway's defense argued that the DNA evidence was contaminated, that the genealogy methodology was speculative, and that 50 years of storage had compromised the evidence chain. The jury was not persuaded. On November 18, 2022, the jury returned a verdict of guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberating for 9 hours and 14 minutes. On December 9, 2022, Harlan Circuit Court Judge Sandra Marie Cowood sentenced Merritt Allen Calloway to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In the courtroom, Dennis Ray Combs, age 73, wept without sound. His sister Karen, 66, held his hand throughout the sentencing. Dennis had driven past 412 Sycamore Bend Road every March 8th for 51 years. He said afterward, "She was just going to get cornstarch. She was just going to come back home." Special Agent Melissa Fugate, standing outside the courthouse in the thin December light, was asked by a reporter how she felt. She paused for a long time. "I feel like Orville Prater was right," she said. "He wrote in his notebook in 1972 that it wasn't finished. He was right. It just took us a while to catch up." Patsy Jean Combs was 19 years old. She loved cable knit cardigans and cats, and the sound of Simon and Garfunkel on the radio. She could make a room feel warmer by walking into it. She was going to get cornstarch. She had her whole life in front of her, a life her killer stole on a cold October evening on a gravel road in the Kentucky mountains. For 51 years, she lay in a collapsed mine shaft while the world moved on without her. Her mother died without knowing. Her father died without knowing. But the mountains kept her, and two things saved her case. A handwritten note from an evidence technician who noticed a smear of material that no one could test in 1971, and an investigator who went back and read every word. Justice delayed is not justice denied. Not entirely. Not when the science finally catches what the courts could not. Not when a DNA profile from a discarded Gatorade bottle closes a circle that opened in 1971. There are thousands of cold case files in courthouses across this country, and every one of them holds someone like Patsy, a fully realized human being, a sibling, a child, a dreamer. waiting for the technology and the determination to align. This case reminds us that they are not forgotten. They are waiting. To Dennis Ray Combs, to Karen Sue Mullins, and to the memory of Roy and Loretta Combs, she was found. She was remembered. She mattered. Thank you for listening. And don't forget to stay with us for our next story.